Attention, please.
And now, it's Cutter's Rockcast.
Hey.
Hi.
Sorry I'm tardy. The interviews have gone over today.
Yeah, normally that's my fault, so I'm all right with this. Turn that up a little bit. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you great. Sounds awesome.
Awesome. Perfect. Myles Kennedy. Dude, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, what's the hat? What's the logo on the hat?
Oh, it's you know what? I think it's a venue. I think it's a casino, maybe a venue I played at. And it gives the swag, and I was like, yeah,
I love I see it now. It caught my eye, you know. Pawns and Kings, new Alter Bridge album. It has been 19 years now, because it's 2023 since One Day Remains. This band just keeps going and going and going and trucking along, and here you are 19 years later, and you just released your most epic record ever, it feels like.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm really pleasantly surprised that we're still in the game. I just was just talking about this. I didn't expect this outcome. grateful, but I didn't expect it.
You didn't expect what, the longevity? Or
yeah, I didn't because I was always kind of raised to have a very kind of, how do I say this, realistic expectations on life. Yeah. And so, you know, when I was a little kid, I'll never forget. I was sitting in the back of the minivan coming back from pizza night with my parents and like 10 years old. And I was like, I want to be a baseball player someday. And
those were the greatest nights,
right? The best nights.
What was the pizza joint? We went to Godfather's Pizza.
Godfather's. Yeah. We had a place called Straw Hat Pizza and then Pizza Haven and Pizza Hut.
Sure.
Yeah. See, that was a big one.
Gotta hand in your bookets.
I'm sorry?
Gotta hand in your bookets.
Right.
Yeah, the Pizza Hut thing. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm digressing. I'm hungry. Sorry.
I'm making hungry too. But so dad is just like, son, you should have, maybe you're not going to be big enough to be a ball player, but you maybe be a photographer. You know, it's always kind of that sort of thing.
Okay, sure.
And so the idea of being a recording artist and you make records and you tour, you know, this is all great. To me, the fact this is all panned out the way that it has is very surprising. But I'm grateful.
Well, as you should be. I mean, between the band, and there's so many projects within the band, right? I mean, your work with Slash obviously speaks volumes. Obviously, you were doing stuff before Alter Bridge. Mark's work with his own band, Tremonti. I mean, the guy put out a solo record dedicated covering Frank Sinatra music. Like, the talent level in this band, I think, speaks for itself. But man, I got to go back to this new album, because not just because that's what we're promoting, but because it really shines through. I've been listening to you guys since day one. We've been having these conversations since day one, the whole band. There is this album from start to finish. It's a journey, man. Like it's in a day and age when everybody releases singles and that's what you're worried about. This record from start to finish just goes.
Thanks, man. No, I think I think what was important on this record is that it was, the goal was all killer, no filler. You know, it's like that's trying to make it so that, because a lot of times with our records, there are peaks and valleys and a lot of dynamics, and we do enjoy being able to do that, but we wanted to make a record that was a little shorter and not instead of 14 songs, 10 songs, and you kind of get in, you get out, and I think we live in an interesting time where people's attention spans they're not what they were 20 years ago. You know, if you're gonna continue to put out ideas, you need to grab people's attention, and the goal is to keep their attention. So yeah, we did our best to try and make a record that was compelling from start to finish. So I appreciate hearing that.
Of course. Now, Pawns and Kings, the name, the fact that the record has this sort of epic vibe to it, and Pawns and Kings, the name, there's obviously wording involved that kind of goes back to that title. Is there kind of an overarching story lyrically
throughout the whole record? Not necessarily. I think personally, it was important not to make another concept record. I've done a few of those over the years, like made a few solo records that were very much, Year of the Tiger was kind of a concept record, total story. And I remember coming to terms with the idea that it was each record was this concept, and wanted to make sure that with this one you had, you know, you had ideas that maybe themes that would run on a few songs, but then it wasn't exclusive to that idea throughout. I think there was a real need to, like, for example, there's a really great song Mark brought in called "Stay," which is kind of a palate cleanser. It sonically and lyrically, it's not as congruent with some of the other tracks, but that's important because it makes it, it's just a nice respite. You know, if this, because it's such an intense record, and it's so much of the material is riff based, and there was certain lyrical intensity. It was nice to have a song like that to kind of balance things. So yeah, I mean, it's you know, you just never know when you embark on a record what it's going to be. But I think one of the things we were trying to do, we were very cognizant of from the beginning, is that it was a little more crystallized, and also from a production standpoint, not as dense. So it was about making sure that the riffs had a certain impact, and that, you know, we were straight to the point.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up the production standpoint. My boss and I were actually just having this conversation in regards to modern music, and, you know, how sometimes you can kind of make old things sound good by bringing it up. I don't want to get too nerdy in soundscapes, but the production level, you can hear the difference, I think, sometimes when that's really thought about going into it, the production of an album and how crystal clear everything is. There's a lot of instrumentation going on. You guys are playing a lot of notes real fast at times. But you can hear them. You can hear them. And I think that's important, right?
That, yeah. And we owe a lot of that to Elvis, our producer. And Elvis is, and what's interesting on this record is that there was a bit of a switch from previous records from a technical standpoint, as far as the gear that was being used. You know, he had integrated a new board, and there were different preamps, and it actually made a difference even in the way that I was singing. I remember when we were tracking some of the vocals, he was like, "Man, I've been tracking vocals with you for 20 plus years, and we're knocking a lot of these vocals out faster than we normally do." And a lot of it was just because of this new gear, whatever it was. I was hearing every little detail. And that, you brought it up, kind of that crisp and clear part of the equation. So that was a new variable that it's interesting, because we've heard enough people comment on the production value or the sonic aspect of this record, and we feel like Elvis really helped with, you know, it helped take it to a new level. Without
good job, Elvis.
Yay, Elvis.
The song "Holiday" is the latest single from it. When you have a record like this, is it hard to kind of decide? Do you let somebody else kind of get their ears on it and go, "Yeah, that's the song to go to radio or shoot a video for," or whatever?
Yeah, to a point. Yeah, you get too close. Well, the funny thing with "Holiday" is that originally that track wasn't even going to be on the record. You know,
not always how it always works out that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that track was kind of an afterthought after Mark and I had put up all our tunes, and they were like, "Well, do you have anything else?" And I was like, "Well, we've got this sitting here," and played it for the powers that be, our producer and our manager. And like, "Well, why didn't you put that up in the first place?"
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
The way you just said, you know, do you have anything else? Does that, what is that? If a manager comes in or a record label comes in, promote whoever, right, and comes in, they hear the record and they go, "Oh, okay. Do you have anything else?" You know what I mean? Like, make you feel, you know?
You know what? That's a great point, because it is kind of that, like, yeah, it's like we don't hear a single.
Good, but
it's good, but we don't hear the single. Don't hear a single. The future was wide open. You know, it's the Tom Petty thing. It's like when I remember the first time I heard that song, "Into the Great Wide Open" or whatever, it's like, oh, I totally relate to that, because it's like that's so much of, you know, radio folks and I'm sorry, you know, managers and, you know, labels on, they want to make sure that you've got that part of the equation. And being the musicians, you're always like, "Oh, I just want to make these epic songs and express ourselves artistically, and we're going to make 8-minute opuses." And it's like, no, we also need these other kinds of songs as well. So yeah, that was
like, I'm just picturing like a great rock doc where the rock star is just, "I don't give a crap." crap, but I don't give a crap what radio wants. I'm the artist.
But you know what's funny? That is such a, I mean,
Yeah, no,
it's
I get it.
such
I
a
get it.
thing. Like, of course, the radio's going to play this 13-minute song. Of
Why
course
wouldn't
they are. Why wouldn't they?
They played Led Zeppelin.
Exactly.
They played Tool.
Exactly.
Anyway, so what was it then about this song? Do you think then that you pull this out of the stock heap and people go, yeah, that's it, that's the one?
Well, I think that there's a simplicity to it, and there's a certain, there's a certain hook, which is, I guess, kind of sticks in your head, but also I think a lot of it's the lyric. I think people can relate to that.
Mhm.
The idea of powering down, and the idea, there's a line in there, there's more to life than a living. I think people really, especially after seeing what's happened in the last few years, when everything kind of, the world came to a stop, and then people realize, hey, wait, I don't know if I want to go back to work, and so you had the great, kind of the great resignation, whatever that was called. But so yeah, I think that there's just something, people are always going to relate to time off.
That's the truth. As you say that, well, bye, Myles. I'm gonna no, for real. Listen, again, I can't say enough good things about this album. I really can't. Pawns and Kings, it really, it really, I don't want to say it caught me off guard, because obviously I've been a fan, but it did, in a sense of just, it wasn't standard. There was something different that just caught my attention almost immediately when I heard Silver Tongue. Holiday does the same thing. Listen to the album as a full. It's one of those records, again, the epicness, but it's one you want to get a vinyl copy of. It's one you want to put headphones on. It's one you want to listen to in your car when nobody's around, and that speaks volume to what you guys are able to pull off.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You guys are about to launch a tour, correct? End of this month?
We are. Yeah, we're getting the band back together, and we're going to be touring the States, and we're going out with our friend and friends. We just did a tour with Mammoth, Wolfgang, and his crew, and that was a real treat for us, just because we've known Wolfgang for a long time, and getting to see how he's blossomed as an artist has been really inspiring. And so, and not just from a musical standpoint, but we also just, I love that guy. He's just an awesome human being. So it's going to be great to get to do more of that with those guys.
I've only had the opportunity to speak to him once, and then meet him in passing one time backstage. But yeah, dude, absolutely. He just seemed, and the music's cool. Like, what a great musician. Talk about the apple not falling far from the tree.
Right. Yeah, geez, have you heard him play the drums? It's insane.
I mean, you listen to the album, you hear him play the drums.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then, the thing is, for me, watching him night after night sing, and how consistent he is. Yeah, he is the, you just said it best. The apple essentially did not fall far from the tree on that front.
No, not at all. All right, that's the tour. It's amazing that how busy you guys all are, especially you and Mark, and you continue to Alter Bridge every year. There's an Alter Bridge tour, a couple Alter Bridge tours, and we get the opportunity to see you guys live, and we get new music all the time. It's awesome. As a fan of music, thank you, because what you guys seem to put out is always generally pretty good.
Oh. It really does mean a lot, because sometimes you don't know, you get too locked in, and you'll second guess yourself. So it's nice to hear when something connects, because you can't always connect, and that's just the way it is. Not everything you put out is going to connect with people, but it's nice to hear that this body of work is doing what we hoped. So that we
I just remembered why I write notes to things. I wanted to actually ask you about these are my scribbles, you can't see them, but Live at Wembley that you put out towards the end of 2022. Live at Wembley, I mean, Wembley is such a iconic stadium, and you guys do tend to play these really gigantic shows over in Europe. That's no offense to the United States, just is what it is. To be able to play that, record it, put it out, how special is that?
Oh, it was great to document it. Yeah, I mean, Wembley obviously there's a lot of a lot of history there, but yeah, we do have a large fan base in that part of the world that allows us to get to play those big arenas.
Right.
But it's interesting. We're starting to feel like after nearly 20 years here in the States, like things are slowly starting to we're like manager will call, agent call, hey, things are actually doing pretty well here. And we're like, really? So that's thank you, America.
What do you feel like? I mean, at one point, did you feel like maybe you had hit your stride and that was just kind of it? Like that you'd kind of plateaued off?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Look, like we talked about earlier, I've always kind of have realistic expectations. And so, especially as long as we've been doing it, I realize that, we may not be the hippest, we're not the new thing. And so with that said, you assume that you kind of, is there a plateau? Does that mean, okay, well, this was kind of where we ended up, and be grateful for that. But when we see the trajectory continuing to creep north, you're like, wow, okay, well, this isn't what I expected, but I'll go with that. That's great. Yeah, I just think that, fortunately, people are still coming to the shows and maybe inviting their brother and sister and some friends, and it's just slowly building, continuing.
Their kids.
Yeah. That exactly. It's
I've
crazy.
gotten to that point, man. My daughter's going to be 14 in a couple of months, and
Wow.
she is wanting to go to all the concerts with me. And my son too is going to be 11 next week. They were supposed to come to Seven Dust with me, and my son got sick, unfortunately, on the day of, on New Year's Eve. But they're all excited about that. We're gonna take them to go see Theory. I'm sure there might be an Alter Bridge tour in there at some point too. Who knows? But it's awesome. As a father who grew up in the music industry and as a musician and radio and all that, to be able to bring your kids to see bands, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's got to be amazing. It's so, and for me to hear that your kids are interested in that genre, that's really, really good news, because
I'm gonna tell you, I'll tell you this really fun one. You're gonna laugh, and then we'll wrap things up. But my son comes out of his room one day, and I got him on Alexa, so he has a smart speaker in his room, and he comes out of his room one day. He's 10 years old, so it's like a year ago, and he goes, "Dad, have you ever heard of Motorhead?" And meanwhile, I have it's damn near a tribute to Lemmy next to my record collection, right? And I have the big Motorhead box set sitting over there, and I look and I go, you mean them? And he goes, oh my God, there's this song called Ace of Spades. It's so awesome. I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. That song came out 40 years ago. This is amazing,
That's great. See, that's cool, man. I mean, and you know what? That gives me hope hearing that, for sure.
Yeah, well, there you go. And I'm sure you guys have seen it in the crowds too, because I know you start seeing the generations in the crowds, and it is pretty awesome.
It's really inspiring. Yeah, keeps you going.
Myles Kennedy, Alter Bridge, Pawns and Kings, available now. Tour later this month and into the springtime. It's nice to say springtime. It's cold in Wisconsin. Dude, thank you very much for doing this. I greatly appreciate it, as always.
My pleasure. Always great talking with you.
Cutter's Rockcast.
Don't forget to tune in. Exactly.